Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. We are up to day 12 of daily videos, Hidden Figures. Today's hidden figure is Geraldine Whittington, who was born September 11th, 1931 and died January 24th, 1993. She was the personal executive secretary to President Lyndon B. Johnson and was the first African-American secretary in the White House. Johnson was famous for working long hours and insisting that his assistants work long hours as well, and when John F. Kennedy was assassinated and Johnson became president, he required a new slate of secretaries. He saw Whittington working in a government office, and after hearing nothing but positive things about her, requested that his assistant Jack Valenti get her home phone number. Johnson called her unannounced one evening and requested that she come in that night for an interview. According to audiotapes of Johnson's phone calls, Whittington at first thought the call was a joke, but came to believe that it really was the president on the line. She applied for the job and was offered the position and began working for President Johnson in January 1964. She continued to work for him until he retired. Miss Geraldine Whittington, affectionately known as Gerri, was the first African-American presidential secretary in U.S. history. Having a black woman in the White House was very unusual in the early 1960s and the early 2010s. Johnson wanted to advertise the fact that he had hired a black woman, but chose not to call a news conference. Instead, he arranged for Whittington to appear on the television game show What's My Line, wherein contestants attempted to guess her profession. This may have seemed less overt, but probably caused her to be exposed to more viewers than if a standard press conference had been held. Because who watches press conferences? Hardly anyone. Who watches game shows? Everybody. Whittington appeared on episode 696 of the game show on January 19, 1964, as the first contestant. After Whittington signed the blackboard as Gerri Whittington, she told host John Daly that she was from West River, Maryland. Her occupation was then shown on the screen as secretary to President Johnson. Later, Whittington would go on to appear in several magazines, including Jet and Sepia. She was the first person to learn that Justice Thurgood Marshall had been nominated by President Johnson to the Supreme Court. Minutes before LBJ made the official announcement, he took his nominee down to her office and said, "Here's the next Supreme Court justice." She told friends that she thanked the president for making the choice of the first black court justice. Whittington was also extremely hands-on during LBJ's meetings with Martin Luther King Jr. and other members of the civil rights movement, advocating on their behalf. She was extremely dedicated to her job, and it had been recorded that her fondest memory was when President Johnson stepped out of the Oval Office with Thurgood Marshall and shared the news that he was appointing Marshall as the first African-American Supreme Court justice. After suffering a stroke at age 38, Miss Whittington died of cancer in Washington, D.C. on January 24, 1993. Whittington understood how difficult it can be to finance a college education for African Americans, so prior to her death, she set up a trust fund in her name for relatives attending a 4-year college or university. And I do not have a quote for Geraldine Whittington, but the full clip of her appearance on What's My Line will be posted in the description box for anybody that wants to watch it, along with some other really interesting links on Geraldine Whittington, a hidden figure. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. See you next time. Peace, as always.